Mars and Its Canals by Percival Lowell. Part 3. The Canals in Action. Chapter 23. Canals. Kinematic. So far in our account of the phenomena, we have regarded the lines, the spots, and everything that is theirs solely from the point of view of their appearance at any one time. In other words, we have viewed them only from a static standpoint. In this we have followed the course of the facts, since in this way were the canals first observed. We now come to a different phase of the matter, the important disclosure, with continued looking, that these strange things show themselves to be subject to change. That is, they take on a kinematic character. This at once opens a fresh field of inquiry concerning them and widens the horizon of research. It increases the complexity of the problem, but at the same time makes it more determinate, for while it greatly augments the number of facts which must be collected toward an explanation of what the things are, these once acquired, it narrows the solution which can apply to them. The fact of change in the Martian markings forces itself upon anyone who will diligently study the planet. He will be inclined at first to attribute it to observational mistakes of his own or of his predecessors' making, preferably the latter, but eventually his own delineations will prove irreconcilable with one another, and he will then realize the injustice of his inference and will put the cause where indeed it rightly belongs, on the things themselves. Confronted by this fact, he will the more fully appreciate how long and systematic must be the study of him who would penetrate the planet's peculiarity. Just as the recognition of something akin to seasonal change came to Schiaparelli, because of his attending to the planet with an assiduity unknown to his predecessors, so it became evident that to learn the laws of these changes, and from them the meanings of the markings, there was necessary as full and as continuous a record of them as it was possible to obtain. For this end it was not enough to get observations from time to time, however good these might be, but to secure as nearly as might be a complete succession of such, day after day, month after month, and opposition after opposition. The outcome justified the deduction, and it is especially gratifying to realize that no one have the method and the results thus obtained appealed with more force than Schiaparelli himself. Perseverance in scanning the disk, long after the casual observer had considered it too far away for observational purposes, resulted in Schiaparelli's detection of the canals, and this through a characteristic of theirs destined to play a great part in their history, their susceptibility to change. He tells us in his Memoria 1 how area and the adjoining regions showed blank of any markings while the planet was near in 1877 and the disk large and well shown, and then how to his surprise, as the planet got farther away and the disk shrank, lines began to come out in the region with unmistakable certainty. Thus to the very variability which had hidden them to others was due in Schiaparelli's hands their initial recognition. Flux affecting the canals was apparent from the outset of my own observations. No less the subject of transformation than the large dark regions was the network of tenuous lines that overspread them. At times they were very hard to make out, and then again they were comparatively easy. Distance, instead of rendering them more difficult, frequently did the reverse. Nor was the matter one of veiling. Neither our own atmosphere nor that of Mars showed itself in any way responsible for their temporary disappearance. It was not always when our atmospheric conditions were best that the lines stood out most clearly, and as to Martian meteorology, there was no sign that it had anything whatever to do with their obliteration. Long before the canals were dreamt of, veiling by Martian clouds or mist had been considered the cause of these changes in the planet's general features, which are too extensive and deep-toned wholly to escape observation even though none too clearly seen. It was early evident to me that they were not the cause of general topographic change, and equally clearly as inoperative as those that affected the canals. In short, nothing extrinsic to the canal caused its disappearance. Whatever that change was, its action lay intrinsic to the canal itself. On occasion, canals in whole regions appeared to be blotted out. The most careful scrutiny would fail to disclose them, where some time before they had been perfectly clear, and this though distance was at a minimum and definition at its best. Even the strongest marked of the strange pencil lines would show at times only as ghosts of their former selves, while for their more delicate companions it taxed one's faith to believe that they could ever really have existed. Illumination was involved to account for this, and plays a part in the effect undoubtedly, for at plumb opposition the center of the disk for 2 or 3 years had shown less detail than before and after the event. This is probably due not, as with the moon, to the withdrawal of shadows, but to the greater glare to which the disk is then subjected. But this is not the chief cause of the change. Still more striking and unaccountable was the fact that each canal had its own times and seasons for showing or remaining hid. Each had its entrances upon the scene and its exits from it. What dated the one left another unaffected. The Neelocaris was to be seen when the Chrysohoris was invisible, and the Jamuna perfectly evident when the Indus could scarcely be made out. So much shows in the 2 drawings here reproduced. The increase of the Ganges and the advent of the Chrysohoris are noticeably in the second over the first. Seasonal changes seem the only thing to account for the phenomenon, and in a general sense this was undoubtedly the explanation. To learn more about the matter, to verify if it existed, and to particularize it if possible, I determined to undertake an investigation permitting of quantitative precision in the case. A method of doing this occurred to me which would yield results deserving of consideration, from the amount of data upon which each was based, and capable of being compared with one another, upon an equal footing, from which relative information could be derived. It seemed wise to determine from the drawings the degree of visibility of a given canal at different seasons of the Martian year, and then to do this for every important canal during the same period of time. The great number of the drawings suggested this use to which they might be put, for from a great accumulation of data a set of statistics on the subject could be secured in which accident or bias would be largely eliminated, and the telling effect of averages make itself felt. To render this possible, it was necessary that the drawings should be alike numerous, consecutive, and extended in time. These conditions were fulfilled by the drawings made by me at the opposition of 1903. 372 drawings had then been secured, and they covered between them a period of 6 months and a half. They were also as consecutive as it was possible to secure. During a part of the period, the planet was seen and drawn at every 24 hours, from April 5th, namely, to May 26th, or for 46 consecutive days. Though the rest of the time did not equal this perfection, no great gap occurred, and 143 nights were utilized in all. Furthermore, as these drawings were all made by one man, the personal equation of the observer, a very important source of deviation where drawings are to be compared, was eliminated. But even this does not give an idea of the mass of the data, for by the method employed, about 100 drawings were used in the case of each canal, and as 109 canals were examined, this gave 10,900 separate determinations, upon which the ultimate result depended. That each of these determinations was independent of the others will appear from a description of the method itself on which the investigation was conducted. To understand that method, one must begin a little way back. As the 2 planets, Mars and the Earth, turn on their axes, The parts of their surfaces they present to each other are constantly changing. For a feature on Mars to be visible from a given post on Earth, observer and observed must confront each other. And furthermore, it must be day there when it is night here. But as Mars takes about 40 minutes longer to turn than the Earth, such confronting occurs later and later each night, about 40 minutes, until finally it does not occur at all while Mars is suitably above the horizon. Then the feature passes from sight, to remain hidden till the difference of the rotations brings it round into view again. There are thus times when a given region is visible, times when it is not, and these succeed each other in from 5 to 6 weeks, and are called presentations. For about a fortnight at each presentation, a region is centrally enough placed to be well seen, for the rest of the period either ill-placed or on the other side of the planet. If a marking were always salient enough, it would appear in every drawing made of the disk during the recurrent fortnights of its display. If it were weaker than this, it might appear on some drawings and not on others, dependent upon its own strength and upon the definition at the moment, and we should have a certain percentage of visibility for it at that presentation, while if it changed in strength between one presentation and the next, the percentage of its recording would change likewise. Definition, of course, is always varying, but if its value be noted at the time of each drawing, this factor may be allowed for more or less successfully. Making such allowance, together with other corrections to produce extrinsic equality, such as the